Welcome back, everybody. A couple months ago, I posted a video about Super Smash Bros. And I was asking the audience what games or series Super Smash Bros. Introduced you to. And in that same vein, today we're going to be talking about some of our favorite video game compilations or collections. I've gathered a few of mine here, the physical copies. Whatever's on Steam will remain there. Maybe I'll show some footage. And really, this is just another video or an opportunity in the comment section for you all to share some of your favorites with me, and we can just have a fun discussion, because I enjoy this kind of thing from time to time. So let's just start off with the best of the best that I own, at least, the Sonic Mega Collection. One of the great things about this game, or this collection of games, is that it introduced me to a lot of Sonic titles that I didn't even know existed. Also, it gave me the opportunity, a little bit older and later in life, to play some of my favorites from back at my aunt's and uncle's house. They were the ones who owned the Sega Genesis. They were the ones who had the Sonic games. So finally, after a little bit of waiting on the GameCube, I was able to play these titles again. It's got Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, 3, Sonic and Knuckles, Sonic 3D Blast, Sonic Spinball, and one of my favorites, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. I never would have known about that game had it been for the collection. So I'm really curious also if any of these collections introduced you to new games, or maybe you're somebody who picked them up because you had fond memories of those titles in the past and you just wanted to own them in a different way. Could be something like Final Fantasy Pixel Remastered, where you've maybe played 4 out of the 6 titles or something like that. So it's a chance for you to both re-experience those titles all freshened up, and also to play the ones that you missed out on. Going back to Sonic now, Sonic 3D Blast, I'm glad I got to try it. It's not necessarily a great game, but it was very cool to see a different riff on what I consider the classic Sonic, or what is the classic Sonic, right? With that fast platforming. Sonic Spinball, that was one of the titles that my aunt and uncle had, and I'm really glad that I own the game for myself now. And there's a lot of unlockables, there's a lot of bonus content in this game. I'll talk about that a little bit more later, or I will redirect you to somewhere where you can view some of that for yourself, because I don't have the capture card to get that from my game directly. Let's move on now. What would be my second favorite compilation in my collection? Probably, I don't have it here with me, but the Command & Conquer Theater of War collection. I have a couple of photos of me holding the box and the games, at least. The games themselves are at my parents' place. I just keep them there because that's where my CD reader is on my computer. And of course, this one doesn't have an optical drive. Anyways, that Theater of War, though, and getting to Red Alert 1 and Red Alert 2, but even the games prior to it, trying out Tiberian Sun as a kid, man, those games were spectacular, a lot of fun. Probably a lot of the reason why I enjoy RTS games so much. They are so well made. The voice lines are so memorable. The graphics are pretty cool. And then when you get to Red Alert, the what would be hero abilities in other games or unique abilities for your class are so cool. If you're allied, you can use thunderstorms. And I think there's a little bit of lore there where you're using Albert Einstein's technology. And if you are on the Soviet side, I forget what they're called right now, you can use, oh shoot, I'm getting the games mixed up. One of them has mind control abilities as well. Oh, no, nukes. You can drop nukes on people. That's right. A lot of fun with those games. Love Red Alert. Recently, if you want to get back into Red Alert and you didn't know this, or Command & Conquer as a whole, you can actually buy a remastered collection on Steam. So I picked that up. I haven't gotten into it yet, but whenever I do, I'll be looking forward to that. All right, the third one that I'm proud to show off, actually, not necessarily proud to show off, but I think the third one, because I love these games so much, Halo, the Master Chief Collection. Again, I own this on Steam, so let's see what footage I throw up on screen, if any. I was a little bit disappointed when I first got the games. Actually, when I first got the game, that was another major disappointment. How was the Master Chief Collection released on PC? One title at a time, and they started it with Reach. So they wanted to take you through the game's chronology or the game's timeline in order. That meant Reach would come before Halo 1, but it really made no sense. People were looking forward to starting with their favorite games, and for most people that's somewhere between 1 and 3. Now, having played Reach, It's not a bad game, but it's just this is a much more condensed version and a very broad description of how messed up the launch was for that game. Not only did they release Reach and then you had to wait to play the other titles, but they didn't even have a working Forge, and they also did not have local co-op. And what am I most nostalgic for when it comes to Halo? Local play, whether it's multiplayer or co-op. But really, I wanted to play the co-op with other people. So that was a huge disappointment, and that's probably why, even though I love the Halo titles more than all of these other games, it falls back and behind a little bit. Another one here, Final Fantasy 1 and 2 Dawn of Souls. If you've watched my Final Fantasy rankings, you know how much I love both of these games, but number 2 especially. I am so lucky that this was my first chance and my first way of playing Final Fantasy II. Otherwise, I'd probably be a complainer about the title just like everybody else. I already mentioned the Pixel Remaster games, so I wonder if any of you have gotten into Final Fantasy II that way. This is a bit of a funny one. Now that I've basically done my top 3 and I'm just moving on from there, I may as well mention this. This is a pre-order bonus that came with The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker for the GameCube. So if you hadn't played Ocarina of Time, for many people, the best Zelda game in the series up until that point, you had the chance to do so. I wasn't necessarily looking forward to replaying the game that way, but I did look forward to playing this, Master Quest. Now, I had a little bit of a misunderstanding going into this, thinking that this was Ocarina of Time Part 2, almost, kind of like Super Mario Bros. Lost Levels. In a way, yes, it is. What it is a mirrored version of Ocarina of Time, and also some of the dungeons, or I think all the dungeons, have been changed to be a little more difficult. For example, I remember in the Spirit Temple, I think I remember anyways, there's a lot more silver rupee collecting, and those are part of the puzzles in that dungeon. Anyways, can't remember it too well, haven't gone back to replay it. I beat it once as a kid, and that was about it. Let's get into some funny ones here. Let me talk about some of the games and collections that have disappointed me or that I've played but don't own. There's so many collections to go through, so I'll just try to breeze through this quickly. The Orange Box. When I was in high school, one of my friends bought that for console. Looking back on it, it seems like a funny decision, but we enjoyed it. When I was a very young kid and I was at the hospital for something, I remember in the kids' playroom, there was a console set up with Super Mario All-Stars, right? Super Mario All-Stars. And it was so weird to me seeing my favorite games with these different graphics. For me, I'm a Nintendo Entertainment System purist when it comes to the 1, 2, 3 titles. But it was still cool seeing those at the hospital, being able to play them again. I have avoided, as these collections and consoles have been continued to be released, the Mega Man collections. First of all, I missed the Anniversary Collection, and I don't think it's available on Steam anymore, if it ever was. What Steam does have are the old titles packaged as Legacy Collections, but those are split into 2. Am I really in the mood to play the Mega Man games split into 2? Also, a question that I have to ask as I get older and I consider spending the money or not spending the money on these titles is, can I emulate your games better than you can? So, is it worthwhile for me to just boot up the ROM for free on some Nintendo Entertainment System emulator and play Mega Man 1 through 6 that way? Or really, am I going to be missing out if I don't play them through the Legacy Collection? That's something that I've been a little more cognizant of, that I've wondered about as more of these collections have come out. With the Metroid Prime trilogy, that was pretty cool. I think a lot of people could play 1, 2 on the Wii. I didn't need to pick that up, though, because I enjoyed them on the GameCube. There was no need for me to spend money to replay those games. Not when I was already so happy with the games on the GameCube. I have looked at the Castlevania collection, but again, I've wondered, is it really worth it for me to pay for it here instead of just emulating it? And this is where you can chime in if there's any collections that you deem completely necessary or mandatory, because that is the true or improved experience as opposed to the true experience. Super Mario 3D All-Stars, right? Some of you got to play Super Mario Sunshine for the first time on the Switch. How was that experience? That's one of my favorite games for the GameCube as well. I don't know how it is for the Switch. I haven't touched it. I have no interest there. I have another one on Steam, Sega, Mega Drive, and Genesis Classics. And I can't remember if I bought Golden Axe or if I received it for free. regardless, you have this Sega emulator running through Steam, and it's got an amazing presentation. It kind of takes you back to the rad 90s or whatever. But the problem is you have to purchase every game to play through there individually. Now, of course, they sell them as a big collection. I believe it's $37 Canadian. But what is the point of that? I might not even be interested in a title for more than 2 to 5 minutes. So again, I have to ask myself, is it really worth a purchase, or would I rather just emulate it? And what could they have possibly improved for these titles anyway? Maybe the addition of some of these achievements, some of these collectibles. Well, that's kind of cool, sure. But then there's a funny situation with these games in particular where Sega or somebody has actually discontinued the Sonic games through this particular emulator. So if you want to play the Sonic games, or if you want to get these achievements, you can't even do that. This is another one that I own physically. I believe this came with my Xbox console. Star Wars, The Clone Wars, and on the back here you can see Tetris Worlds. These two games are contained on one disc. Now, I did not bother replaying them. I don't even have my Xbox set up, and I didn't look this up before filming this video. But I vaguely recall these being demos and not actually full games. Again, anyone can clarify. Maybe I'll look it up while I'm editing the video. Doesn't really matter. Just thought I'd throw that in there where, yeah, it's another compilation of sorts and not one that I've really ever heard talked about too much. Finally, as I wrap up here, again, the floor is yours. The comment section is open for you to share your stories, for you to share your favorites, to inquire about anything that you've seen in this video. There are so many dozens of compilations and collections at this point. If you consider something with a minimum of 2 games a collection, then yeah, like I said, Dawn of Souls counts. If you need more games in your collection, then look no further than something like this, the Sonic Mega Collection. For your own viewing pleasure, if you want to learn more about these in video form, I recommend Scott the Waz's channel and his videos on game compilations specifically. I believe there's 3 videos, and I just rewatched one of them before shooting this, so it was fun to see some stuff again. Anyways, that's about it. Like I said, I'm interested in hearing your stories and your experiences and reading about your potential recommendations for more collections. So thank you everybody for watching. Bye-bye for now.